Hi everyone, welcome back to another cooking lesson video here in my kitchen. Today we're going to cook through something that's pretty versatile. It can be done in many different ways. It can be used on its own, or it can be used as part of something. What we are going to do is we are going to make a meat filling that's called shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is a stewed lamb dish made with ground lamb and vegetables. Pretty simple, but like I said, very versatile. Just like we learn in a lot of cooking, what's best to put into your shepherd's pie are some of the things that you have available to you, and not to get caught up so much on what this recipe is or what a recipe on the internet you might find is. Yeah, so once again, we're going to be making our meat filling, our shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is made from ground lamb, and then some vegetables, and a little bit of flavored liquid. We'll talk about that in a little bit as we go through our recipe. But first things first, we have to prepare our ingredients. Okay, so here on our cutting board we have our ingredients that we're going to be using for our shepherd's pie. A few of these things you may know, a few of these things you may not know. So first things first, let's start with the one vegetable that starts many recipes. Right here we have an onion, right? But this onion is a specific type of onion. So you see how this onion is kind of flat, and it looks different than this onion, which is round. This flat onion is called a Vidalia onion. This is a sweet onion. Sweet meaning if I were to just cut this open, I could slice off a piece of this onion, put it in my mouth, it wouldn't be very harsh, it wouldn't make me turn up my face, it would be nice and sweet. So Vidalia onion is a type of sweet onion. Another type of onion that you might see in the store that's a sweet onion is Maui onion. Okay, so I have a little bit of carrot left from the last thing I cooked. So we're gonna put some carrot inside of our shepherd's pie as well. Then we have this little white and purple spaceship guy. This is a root vegetable. It is called a turnip. So we're gonna put a little bit of turnip inside of our shepherd's pie. And last but not least, we're gonna put this inside of our shepherd's pie. Once again, it's springtime. We're cooking with some new vegetables that are very much a part of this season, right? We're making shepherd's pie. It's from lamb. Lamb is very much a springtime inspired dish. And we have this. The name of this, it's not green onion, it's not scallion, all right? This is called spring garlic or green garlic. When it's whole, it looks like this. So as you can see, it looks green, dark green at the top, like a small version of a leek. But as it grows to the bottom, where the root is, you can see it looks almost like our head of garlic. Right? This is where the head of garlic grows from. And you can see the color changes as it grows down to the head of garlic. It gets a little bit purple, and it gets more and more tough, like a piece of wood. And then it will turn, eventually, this kind of tan color, like a regular head of garlic. Right? So this is spring garlic or green garlic. It is one of my favorite things in the springtime. It has a very bright, strong, oniony, garlicky flavor, and it's a great component to a lot of different dishes. This is just one use for our spring garlic. I'll probably show you another in a video coming up. So to get our spring garlic ready, all you do is you take the yellow leaves that are on the outside and you peel them down. So you get all of that purple out, all of that tough outer leaf off, and then you're left with this. Actually, these I might peel just a little bit more. So just like this. Okay. You can see it looks just like little cloves of garlic are growing inside of there. Okay, so one more time. Nice and simple. Okay, great. So our green garlic is ready. Right. So to prepare this first, I'm gonna cut it in half. Okay. I'm going to save these pieces. I don't think that I'm going to use this much. And then these, I'm going to cut in half. And then cut into small pieces, about the size of our small dice. Fantastic. Okay, once you get to the end where that head of garlic would be, you just move it to the side so you can cut into another piece that's roughly the size of your dice. If it's too big, cut it in half and continue. All right. So if you put this much actual garlic inside of a dish, it would be extremely garlicky. Spring garlic, because it's a younger, more tender version of the garlic that we use each day. The flavor is, it's weird to say, it's a little bit lighter and more intense at the same time, if that makes any sense. You can really use the entire vegetable like you see us cutting up right now. The flavor just has a, you know, like I said, like a less harsh version of the flavor of garlic, but at the same time, that flavor of this type of garlic is very, very intense. Okay, next, we'll cut our onion just like we normally do. We cut off at the top, trim the root, and we cut in half, remove our skin. All right, now we can go ahead and make our small dice of our sweet onion. Okay, this onion, it's a little tricky to hold together just because of the shape. Just a little bit different the first time you actually use it. Then after that, it's a little bit more easy for you to handle. Okay, I think I want just a little bit more onion. All right, so our onion is finished, our garlic is finished. Okay, now the next two things that we have skins that we don't necessarily want. So we see we're gonna have to get our peeler and we're gonna have to peel them first. We wanna make sure our work area stays nice and clean. So we're going to peel, not on our cutting board, but onto another surface that we can use to throw our peel away. So take a peeler, we peel onto our towel here. You could have a plate, you could have a quarter sheet tray. All right, so our carrot is finished. We're gonna peel our turnip as well. Okay, you'll see that I'm holding my peeler a particular way, right? I'm holding it right inside of these grooves, just like our knife, holding it in my hand with my finger inside of this little space right here is designed to fit just like that inside of your hand so you can peel very quickly, just as if you were using a paring knife, okay? So you can have your hand in the same position using your peeler as you would peeling something with a knife. All right, so our turnip is ready for us. Our cutting board is ready for us. It's nice and clean still because I did everything onto my paper towel, keeping my station nice and clean. Okay, so now we will small dice our carrot and our turnip. First, we'll take off a little bit of the root end of our carrot. All right. surface so we can be nice and safe when we're cutting our carrot. Okay, we can make our planks. Then we'll make our batons. All right, and now we can go through and make our dice of our carrot. Our carrot is diced. Okay, and then last, our turnip. So turnip, the same. We'll take off the little green top. Turnips come just like beets, when they'll have a lot of leaves at the top. You can cook and eat the leaves from turnips. In the south of the United States, many people love to eat turnip greens. Okay, so now we'll put our turnip on our nice flat surface. And just like our carrot, we'll cut our planks. And we will go through and cut our batons. And last, our dice. All right. All right, so that is all of the knife work that we need to complete our recipe. All right, so here we have all of our ingredients for our shepherd's pie. Everything is ready and waiting for us. So we have our small diced onion here. We have about 1 cup. We have our half cup of our small diced spring garlic. We have a half cup each of our carrot and turnip. And then we have a couple of other different things to give a lot more flavor to our shepherd's pie. We're going to use a little bit of tomato paste, some thyme. I have here some allspice and a little bit of cayenne pepper. And I said we're going to be braising our ground meat, right? Which means we're going to be cooking it in a flavored liquid. Flavored liquid being our stock. So we're going to have a little bit of stock. And then last, we'll have some Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of cornstarch. And I'll explain the cornstarch once we get to that point. So, as you can see, I've got my rondo on the fire, getting hot and getting ready for us. Because the first step when you make your meat filling is to brown your meat or sear your meat. Here we have our ground lamb, waiting for our pan to get hot. Still could use just a second. This is another one of my favorite things. Okay, this rondo comes from the same company that donates our knives. So Mizan, the company that donates our knives, makes cooking equipment as well. So when they came out with their rondo over the Christmas and into the New Year, I was one of the first people to jump on that and get this. So excited to be using this right now and having this in my house. So our rondo is hot and ready for us. We are going to be searing our ground beef, our ground lamb in canola oil. You just want enough canola oil to cover the bottom of the pan. Right? Since our pan is hot, we're going to carefully place our ground lamb inside of the rondo. You're going to want to break it up just a little bit as you put it in, and then once again as it cooks. So as we cook our ground lamb, we want to make sure we're breaking it up just a little bit so it doesn't cook into one giant lamb burger, but it's more pieces of meat. As you can see, cooking at home a little bit different, right? Hard to get enough heat to brown this meat very well because there's a lot in the pan. Cools down the pan quickly, but that's okay. It's still going to come out well. I don't know if I said this, but this is 1 pound of ground lamb. Okay, 1 pound ground lamb. As you can see, as it cooks, a lot of water is coming out, a lot of fat is coming out. We just want the meat. So in just a moment, as the last of the lamb starts to cook through, we're going to strain our meat so that we only have the meat, no fat, and no water. Okay, so it looks like our ground lamb is just about ready. So we're going to take it to our strainer and strain the fat from our lamb. Okay. Now, we're going to put our rondo back on the fire. We're going to add a little bit more canola oil. Okay, so now we're going to get the rest of our sauce ready, the aromatics for our sauce ready. So we're going to start by adding our Vidalia onion. Okay, remember we're sweating. So we're going to add just a little bit of salt as our onion cooks down. Make sure our pan isn't too dry. Add a little bit more canola oil if it's necessary. All right, you see our onions starting to change color from white, opaque, and starting to become clear, translucent. Okay, so as this starts, we're going to add in our spring garlic. Okay, half cup spring garlic, our half cup of small diced carrot, our half cup of turnip. And add just a little bit more salt. Add some pepper as well. pan. Gonna watch the bottom of our pan. Don't let it get too dry. Add just a little canola oil. Okay. We're going to saute our carrot and turnip, and just until they start to get soft, and then we can continue with the rest of our process. Okay, they're at a good point right now. They're cut into small dice, so they're cooking fairly quickly. In our shepherd's pie filling, we want to have just a little bit of texture to the vegetables. So we don't want to cook them until they're too soft at this point right now, because there's more cooking that is going to take place. So right now, we can add our thyme, about 1 teaspoon of our chopped thyme. We've got our cayenne pepper. We're going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice. So, why are we adding allspice? Well, allspice, normally, when you think of it, you might think of it as a baking spice. Those things that we use as baking spices, we often use with game meats. And lamb is a game meat. So we're adding our allspice to our shepherd's pie mix. Okay, I'm digging it so far. So, once we toasted our spices, we're going to add our tomato paste. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. We're going to cook the tomato paste until the color gets nice and dark. Right now it's a bright red. We want to cook out that raw tomato flavor. You want to stir your tomato paste frequently, because you don't want it to burn on the bottom of the pan. Okay, so you see our color of our tomato paste has changed from that bright red color to more of a reddish brown color, like a brick red color. And you can smell that tomato paste cooking. Now we know we're at the right spot to where we can add our lamb back to our pan. So now we can mix our vegetable mixture with our meat. Now is the point where we want to add our stock. Okay, we're going to add So we added 1 1/2 cups of our stock. Okay, we're going to bring this to the boil and then reduce to our simmer. We're going to cover. We're going to let our meat braise. Okay. There's one of two ways that we can cover our rondeau. We can use a bright shiny lid for our rondeau, or we can use a piece of paper. Okay. Right here, I have a piece of parchment paper. We can make something called a cartouche. Okay, so what is a cartouche? So we take our piece of paper and then we fold it, okay, one time and then one more time into a square. Okay, now when we look at our square, we want to take the middle of our piece of paper, right? It's the side that has two folded sides, not the open sides. Okay, and we want to fold into a triangle. The more triangles that we make, the closer our shape is going to be to a circle. Okay, so that's 2 triangles, 3 triangles, 4 triangles. All right, so we're finished. Let's take our scissors. Okay, we cut the end off and one small hole in the tip. Great. So now, when we unfold, like magic, we have a circle. Okay, this is our cartouche. So we're going to reduce our fire to the simmer. All right, we're going to place our cartouche on top of our rondeau. Okay, and let our meat braise. It should be fairly quick for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so after 10 to 15 minutes, we can go ahead and finish the last step of our shepherd's pie filling. All right, so our time is up. It's been about 12 minutes. All right. Our mixture has reduced just a little bit. Everything is fully cooked and together. And so now we want to add our last flavoring liquid, that's going to bring everything together and make a nice thick sauce. So what we're going to do first, we're going to put 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce in our bowl. To this, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Okay, so cornstarch we add to make it thick. Okay. Cornstarch is a thickener, just like flour would be, or roux, or any other starch. Now, when you add cornstarch, you need to dissolve it in a liquid that's cold. If you try to put it in something hot, it'll just make lumps. So first we put our cornstarch inside of our Worcestershire sauce and then into our mixture. Now for this to thicken, we're going to need to bring it back up to the boil. So we're going to increase our heat and mix in our cornstarch and Worcestershire sauce. I think this looks just a little bit dry. I'm going to add 1 more 1/4 cup of stock. Okay, so this is what we're looking for, right? You see how there's liquid and it looks nice and thick, right? It's not loose like the stock was. Okay, that's from the cornstarch. Okay, also it looks really shiny. Okay, that is from the cornstarch thickening. Okay, so this is pretty much where we want to stop our cooking. We can turn off our fire. Okay, this is the point which we want it. We want some liquid to our mixture, but we don't want it to be dry, right? It still looks like it was dressed in a sauce, right? This is our completed shepherd's pie mixture. Okay, so the actual shepherd's pie, right? How do you make the pie? Well, typically, shepherd's pie is made by putting our meat mixture into another pan or a dish, and then topping it with mashed potatoes, and then putting that into the oven. So that is your classic shepherd's pie. Another way that you can do this dish would be with ground beef. Okay, ground lamb comes from sheep, right? Sheep shepherd, the people that tend the sheep. Cottage pie is made with beef from cows at your cottage. So pretty much the same thing, except beef instead of lamb. Another way that you can make that you could use this filling would be to actually put it inside of a crust, making it more of what we think about when we think of pie, right? And many different cultures have their name for a meat or some kind of filling inside of a crust, like samosa, right? Samosa is a filling inside of a crust and a particular shape. Empanada, right? Empanada, filling inside of a crust. Dumpling, the same. And here in the United States, right? A hand pie. Okay, so there are many different ways that we could use this meat filling. The one that I'm going to do tonight is another variation of what you can do with a meat filling. In the United States, it started a while back in the recent past, in the Midwest, with a sandwich called a loose meat sandwich, right? That's where you take ground meat just like this, you add your thick sauce and your vegetables, and you just put it on bread. Sometime around the 70s and 80s, that kind of spread a little bit more popular to the East and the West, and then it took on a different name called Sloppy Joe. So that is what we're going to have tonight for dinner. And I encourage you to use this recipe and make it into whatever you may want for your dinner or lunch. I hope you had a good time watching this video. You learned a little bit of something, and I will see you next time.